Go from unknown to well known so you can be seen as an expert, establish trust and authority, set yourself apart from your competitors, and get paid more for your expertise. I'm Priya Florence Shah, award winning publisher, author, podcaster, and online branding consultant. In this channel, you'll learn how to create a powerful personal brand and stand head and shoulders above the competition. Sign up for my free personal branding course below, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell to get notified every time I post a new video. Today I'm talking to Kay Putnam. She's a psychology-driven brand strategist, and she's on a mission to help entrepreneurs change the world with what they know. Many know her for her brand personality quiz, which has been taken over 100,000 times. Kay works with clients one-on-one in her agency, and hundreds of students have taken her brand strategy courses on Teachable. While the social media platforms and algorithms change, thankfully the human psychology algorithm doesn't. By tapping into the subconscious and emotional desires of your audience, you can create lasting demand for your brand. So, Kay, let's get started with that. Like I said, I've been a huge fan of your materials, and I've been watching your YouTube videos and stuff. So, I have a few questions I'd love to ask you. Uh, we can get started with the first one. I wanted to, wanted you to tell my audience what are archetypes and why are they so important in personal branding?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Priya. I'm so excited to geek out on branding. It's my favorite topic ever, so it's a pleasure to be here. I discovered archetypes just maybe a year or two into my own online business building journey, and I had this gnawing sense that I was missing something, that I wasn't seeing the full picture because I was following all of these different marketing strategies and trying to do them step by step by step, and I was seeing clearly there's a difference between the results that I'm getting and the results that the people that are teaching these strategies that they're getting. So what is that? Eventually, I realized it is the brand, but I still didn't have a way of quantifying it or really describing what made each brand special. And archetypes were the single largest epiphany moment that I've had in my business. Even to this date, they still remain my favorite brand building tool. See, when I first started online, just maybe like a year or two into my journey, I was really awkward, and I realized that I just had this sense that I was missing something. I knew that there was something underneath all of these strategies and step-by-step tactics that the gurus and the experts were teaching, because I wasn't seeing the same results that they would, even if I would follow it to the T, to the letter. And through this serendipitous rabbit hole of internet links, I ended up on this website that described the 12 archetypes. And archetypes are patterns that show up throughout history, throughout stories, movies, and coincidentally, brands and personal brands. So as I read through these 12 archetypes, I could immediately see how these entrepreneurs, gurus, experts that I was following, they fit one or maybe two of these archetypes and never more than that. So they had a very clear persona. They had a very clear character that their brand was embodying, and it was connected to more than just personality. It was connected to this movement that they were creating throughout their brand. And as soon as I recognized that that is what was happening beneath the surface, I immediately became obsessed and began researching everything I could find out about brand archetypes.
Okay, that's great, because I'm also a huge fan of because Jung came up with the archetypes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a huge Jungian. Okay, so I'm a big fan of Carl Jung and his MBTI and all his his studies and stuff like that. So when I saw your branding archetypes thing, material information, I was immediately drawn to that because of the psychological link with Carl Jung studies. So tell me, Kay, how can we apply the results of the archetype quiz? I mean, you have this archetype quiz that has been taken over 100,000 times, which is really amazing. And so how can we apply the results of the archetype quiz in creating our own personal brand?
Yeah, that number still blows my mind every time. It's so fun to look back at old blog posts and I'm like, oh my gosh, 5,000 people have taken my quiz. And then 10,000 people. And now I get to say that 100,000 people, which is just amazing to me. And I think the reason why it's so powerful and it's been so useful for so many people is, as humans, it is so hard to see yourself clearly. It's almost like we're in one of those circus funhouse mirrors that like make you look really fat or really short or really tall. And that's how we see ourselves. We don't have an accurate picture of our strengths. We might be a little bit more in tune to what we think that our weaknesses are, unfortunately, the human condition. But our strengths almost stay hidden to us because they're so natural and innate in the way that we are. So the archetype quiz helps you see and define what your innate brand advantage is. So once you land on your unique blend of one or two archetypes, I usually recommend focusing on two, just so you're not trying to be all of the things to all of the people.
Right.
You can start to use that as inspiration from everything from your colors to the words that you're using to the stories that you're telling. All of these things can be shaped and filtered through the lens of the archetypes, which makes your brand more consistent and more potent and helps you attract your ideal clients to you.
Yeah, as I was going through your materials, I studied advertising many years ago, so I could immediately see the link with all these old advertisements that, use the archetypes and then cater to a specific archetype in all those, for instance, the Apple one catered to the outlaw first and then went to the creative, with the think different thing. And so it's all very fascinating, and it all brought it all back to me what we had learned in advertising. That's why I find it so, all that Mad Men-esque thing, like.
Exactly. Yes. I literally cannot walk through the grocery store or a mall or watch TV commercials with the same lens anymore, because all I'm seeing are these consistent patterns that show up. Because the thing is, archetypes are never going to go out of style. They've been used for as long as humans have had the brains that we do, because they're connected to those like deep rooted desires that all humans have.
Yeah, they're very primal, and it's a very primal connection, and they're connected to all the stories that we tell ourselves, right? All the mythology and all those, the Greek gods and all those things each of them have archetypes, right? All the gods fit into some kind of archetype. So it's connected to all those ancient stories that we've been telling ourselves. So I think all of us can immediately see ourselves or see someone that we know in the archetypes, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm a huge Game of Thrones geek and fan. The show has now ended. But one of my favorite things to do was to watch the show and look for each of the archetypes, because there's so many characters in that particular TV show that you can see all 12 of them being represented in different people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was trying to figure out who Jon Snow represented. I don't know. He was the brooding kind of. What do you think he represents?
That's a really good question, especially because the character has evolved over time. It's in that particular TV show because it went on for so long. But Jon Snow was always the reluctant leader. So in a sense, I think he had kind of that guy next door. He was one of the guys. He was one of the Night's Watch for so long. It wasn't until all of the people around him almost lifted him up into that hero leader position that he was willing to step into it. So yeah, I would peg him as maybe a guy next door mixed with a few other things.
Yeah, that's true. He liked being one of the guys. He liked being one of his his group, the Night's Watch and other, so that's all. That's very interesting, and I'm going to do that next time I watch the series again. Rewatch the series or whatever. So tell us, Kate, how can you give us an example of how our brand positioning and messaging might change once we get clear on our archetypes?
So I alluded to this when I was telling you about the time when I discovered them for the first time. But before I knew about archetypes, I was trying to model what I was seeing as successful in the market. So there was this one entrepreneur who lived in New York City. She took these lavish vacations, had a very luxurious life. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I should call my signature service Finding Your It Factor. And then there was this other entrepreneur that I followed who used to be a professional athlete, was very motivational, very strong. So I'm like, okay, I connect with that. Let's create a video series called Your Monday Morning Kick in the Pants. And then there was another entrepreneur who was incredibly feminine and like emotive, very like flowery in their language. So I opened up my website with, "Hey, bombshell," and it's cringeworthy looking back now. But once I understood that those weren't my archetypes, those were theirs, and I knew what mine was, I was able to look at every single brand touch point that I have and audit it. Essentially, I'm looking at it. I'm like, is this the sage and the magician? No, it's not really pointing to those archetypes. Let's change that. Let's make that language or that color or that design fit my archetypes so that it's naturally going to communicate who I am at my core more effectively.
And that's great. That's a great insight, Kate. How do you think when you change your branding and your message, what does it do in terms of attracting the ideal customers to you?
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Because when you get your brand in alignment with who you actually are, I liken it to, instead of trying to swim upstream, you're suddenly just flipping around and going with the current. Like, everything gets so much easier. And especially when you take the time to figure out what your brand strategy is at the foundation. A lot of people think of like colors, fonts, logos, those types of things when they're thinking about branding, but it really starts at the foundation of, what do you believe? What's your purpose in this world? What is your personality? What's that experience or emotion that you're going to create with people in your brand? So if you decide that up front, or at any point in the journey, you can always step back and create that clarity for yourself and your business. Every other decision gets so much easier. And the beauty is, you start attracting clients that naturally resonate with who you are naturally, and you repel people that you wouldn't want to work with in the first place. So you have less of those problem clients, less of those just like values mismatch. It's not that those people are bad people. It's just, we're naturally going to work with people who appreciate our values and our personality. So the more that we can show that effectively in our brand, the more we get to naturally segment who is attracted to us.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I think that's the reason why you want to be clear on your brand and why you want to get that clarity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that you can attract the clients that you love working with, as opposed to the ones you just don't, where they just don't see eye to eye, and it would be a nightmare working with them, all the time. So
yeah,
right.
Exactly. Let me add one more for our left-brained listeners. I know that being happy or being content with the people that you're working with might feel a little loosey-goosey, but having an effective brand also gives you pricing power, which means that instead of being a commodity and being completely subject to market forces, you get to rise above that, and you get to charge a premium if you want, or you're just going to attract more of your market share to your brand, which means more profit at the end of the day. So that's the reason why we brand.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's a very important point to make, because there are always people with that left brain thing who need that, who need to know that. So tell us a little bit about how your courses can, help someone get clarity on their branding.
Yes, I love to teach. Like I said, I'm the sage archetype, so teaching is my jam. I have a suite of courses for different parts of the brand building journey. So I actually have 12 unique different courses, one for each of the brand archetypes. So after you figure out what your archetype is, you can research a lot of my free resources. But if you want to take the deep dive, get the shortcut, and get all of the research all at once, you can invest in one of those courses to get that shortcut. I also have my entire brand building process from A to Z in a course called Brand New Brand. And then just recently, last year, I launched for the first time a course called The Brand Advantage. And I built it for the people who are lacking momentum. Like you just have to get into action at some point. A lot of brand building happens in those moments where you're coming into contact with your ideal clients. So if you're in a place where you're kind of stuck and stagnant, and you're not having enough of those conversations with your ideal clients, it can be really hard to even recognize who your ideal client is.
Yeah.
So the brand advantage gets people unstuck into motion, creating results in just 30 days.
Oh, that's great. That's brilliant, because I think that a lot of people will benefit from that, and they are going to love it. It's going to cut short that learning curve and all the pain of having to figure it all out by themselves.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It wasn't until I created my own courses that I realized how much work goes into them and how valuable they really are, because each one of those brand fluency archetype courses took at least 100 hours each to put together. So it's such a value to be able to download that all at once and to skip that research and figuring out in trial and error time on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it's going to cut short their learning curve, and it's going to make things so much easier for them. And I was just watching one of your videos, Kate, in which you said that we shouldn't brand around the one thing we do or the one thing we sell, because that might change and evolve, right? So you want to brand around the result that you offer, the feeling, the experience. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, this is why I'm so infatuated, and I'm more on the side that you should create a personal brand than some type of corporate brand, because having your personal brand gives you so much flexibility and the ability to pivot. Because if people are just getting to know you and your expertise, you can carry your audience with you through every iteration and every evolution of your brand and business. If you just brand yourself as like the Instagram person or the YouTube person, if that platform ever changes, you're going to lose a massive asset that you've built up over time. So I'm much more interested in helping people create brands that stand the test of time, and a personal brand does that really well. And even if you have a corporate brand name, if you brand the outcome, so the results that you're creating with people, you have the ability to switch the method to get there if you ever need to. So if you're helping people grow their businesses, attract more clients, or if you're helping people lose weight, things can shift in your system or in your method as trends or research or whatever changes, but you're still known for that incredible outcome that people desire.
Yeah, that's a very important point to make, because your brand has to, like you said, stand the test of time and grow. And as we grow and evolve, your brand is going to evolve, right? It's not stagnant. It's not like something that you're just carved in stone or whatever. It's going to evolve along with us, right?
Oh, it should. I mean, I like to say that owning a business or being a brand is one of the biggest self-growth or like self-development things that you can put yourself through, and you are going to change. I think the last 6 months have been a period of massive change for me, and thankfully I have a personal brand because I can sneak in some of these new things that I'm learning that are creating massive results for myself and my clients over time, as opposed to being stuck in what I thought, believed, and taught, say even a year or two ago. It gives me great flexibility, and I know that for those of you that are watching, you'll value that flexibility as well if you brand in the right way.
Absolutely, because even I've been pivoting over the last couple of years, trying to figure out, because what my problem was I was into digital marketing, which I still am, but digital marketing is now commoditized, right? So you have to find a way to distinguish yourself, to differentiate yourself. And so you have to, I think the personal branding thing and your archetypes thing really appeal to me because of that, because it's going to help me tremendously in differentiating myself from the rest of the people who are doing the same thing, So
Exactly. Yeah. If you like boil my business down to the nuts and bolts, I'm creating websites for clients. We're creating brand identities for clients. And then I'm teaching other entrepreneurs about how to brand themselves. You can arguably find hundreds of other people, thousands of other people that offer that service. But because I've created additional context around my brand, I'm able to create not only a unique experience and better results for my clients, but I'm able to charge like a meaningful and profitable price as well. So that's the power of a brand. It gives you that context and elevates you beyond the commodity. land.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it helps you, your clients see you in a different light, right? Rather than just coming to you for these services. Yes, I need these services and I can probably get them anywhere. But they're looking at you in a different light as to the experience that you're going to take them through, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yeah, it is. So that was wonderful, Kate. Okay, I'm so happy that we could talk. I would love to. I think we could just go on talking, you know, probably for hours, because this is one of my favorite topics as well, especially the psychological part of branding, So it's very fascinating topic. But I think if you want to add any parting thoughts, I'm happy to,
I mean, I feel like we're all on a mission to build businesses with purpose. And the easiest way that I see, the easiest path to getting there is to tap into what makes you innately incredible and innately amazing. So the more that we can tap into that part of our humanness and our psychology and attract people that are a natural fit for those strengths, the better the world gets. We opened this up by saying I like to help entrepreneurs change the world with what they know. And you can't do that until you show up. And part of that showing up process often takes a little bit of self-reflection. So I'm going to encourage everybody who's watching to do a little bit of that self-reflection. I've found the archetypes to be an incredible tool for that, but whatever it takes for you, we need your genius out in the world. And I would love for more people to show up and share what they know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you do a few of those exercises in your free 5-day course,
Yes.
right? Yeah, you do some of those exercises to help
That's
you reflect on your brand, right?
exactly. Yes. Thanks for mentioning that, Priya. So I have a 5-day Define Your Brand mini course. It's free, completely free. It's very high or very in-depth training for 5 days. And we'll link that up so that anybody who's in that process of needing to step back and do some of that reflection about that foundation work that we talked about earlier, it's a very powerful tool and training to help you do that.
Yeah, thank you, Kay. And I've already included your branding quiz and your course links to your courses in my own email. I have an email course on branding, so I've sent that. I mean, I put that into my email course already, and an Amazon book also, a book on Amazon that I've got going out. So I'm going to be recommending your courses to everybody I know because I love them. I love the concepts that they teach, and so I'm going to be sharing that with everyone. So thank you so much for making the time. I'll let you know as soon as this video is up, and I'll send you the links. Let me just stop the recording. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to my channel and sign up for my free personal branding course at creatingbrandyou.com.